was to deliver the sales. Because any of you who think that your responsibility is to hire people or train people, you're in the wrong job. That is not your job. Your responsibility in your job is to provide qualified people who deliver results. Your job is not to train people, it's not to hire people. Because you're falling quite significantly short of what the actual goal is. It's the age of partnering. That's what tomorrow is going to be about, folks. That's what tomorrow is going to be about. I think HR is going to play a bigger and bigger role in the organizations as we go forward. Not because we want to be nice. We don't have a choice. Technology is taking away all the other crap we do. It comes down to just people. So you have some of the most important jobs in the organization. And that's what I think tomorrow is going to be about. So I think the future is very, very promising. I think it's a great time to be in India. I've relocated to India after living for over 30 years in the US. I've come back here. Most of my friends in the US think I'm crazy. I think I'm the luckiest guy alive. I think it's a great place to be. And I think that you all have tremendous, tremendous roles and can actually make a huge difference in what happens in India as we go forward. So thank you. Thank you for all that you do. And I wish you lots of luck. And I think we have a question. Yes, sir. One second. You and I will share a mic.
Okay, so you talk about the health of the people of the organization. So I want to know about your views on the working hours of the people. So in India, there is a working hours of almost 9 to 9.5 hours. So what's your view on that? Can a human being, live a very successful and a powerful life giving 9.5 hours in the organization and 2 to 2.5 hours in traveling? So what's your view on that?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask this question. And if you talk to Rajiv on the break, he'll tell you why. But I want to share something with you, and I'm not answering your question directly yet, but I will. Jeff Bezos, all know who he is, right? He made a comment that work-life balance is for people who don't like their jobs. I thought that was an interesting statement. I'll get to your question. I said I wasn't answering your question directly. I said I'll get to your question in a second. I think ultimately, for any one of us, it's about getting the job done. I know people, very, very effective people, who come in at 8, leave at 5, and they work about 4 hours a day. But they're really good at what they do. They get their job done. And then I know people who come in at 7, and they leave at 7, and they still don't get anything done. Right? They still don't get anything done. So I'm going to answer your question in 2 different perspectives. One is, how do you manage a situation like that as an HR leader? Right? To actually understand. Because one of the big things where I think India is going to become quite significant, quite substantial, and is in the whole space of process. Because one of the things I think we'll find over time is that we're actually not very efficient in what we do. Right? So we had a conversation, I'm using the example of Fortis again. We had a conversation about the fact that our hospital finance controllers, each one of our hospitals have a finance head. Same question, right? Even the CEC 2 weeks ago, that they're all working crazy hours. And what do? So one of the things that I think we need to do, and we've actually put together a task force of 5 people, figure out what are these controllers doing? What do we need to stop doing? Because there's lots of redundancies. Every single organization, because it's really funny, right? When you work down here and the boss is up here, right? You say, I have 10 things, I can't do all of them. And the assumption is that this guy up here is giving you 10. The reality is he gave you 5, this person added 1, this person added 1, right? And all of a sudden you have 10. Really, we should only be doing 5. So I think that you can do a huge service to the organization by break it down. Break it down in small pieces to understand what needs to be done, what doesn't. And if you get to a point where you have redundant activities, HR needs to be the force that drives that change. Because if you just say it is aise hi hota hai, then you're part of the problem. And you've got to decide which side of the line you stand on, the problem side or the solution side. You can't stand in the middle, and you can't stand on the side of the problem and blame somebody else. So I firmly believe that where we have a flaw, if we have a flaw, fix it. You own it. HR owns it. There's nobody else that owns it. And it's too easy And I'm saying this as a former HR leader. It's too easy to say, ऐसे ही होता है, सुनते नहीं हैं. That is crap. Put your foot down. Put your foot down. You all have years and years of HR training, right? You come to forums like this, you hear about best practices, put your goddamn foot down. Stand for what's right. If you don't stand for what's right, your organization will fail, period. Yes, sir.
Can I request, if you don't mind, can we have question answers later on? There are two more, if you don't mind, please.
Not at all.
Because this is an inaugural session, maybe over tea you could ask questions, because otherwise this whole session will be only
Sure,
question
I
answers.
apologize.
Very
I apologize. Listen, thank you very much. I want to just say one more time that tremendous, tremendous opportunity. You folks own the future of India. If you looked at an organization and you looked at all the various things, that the foundation is HR and people. Without it, nothing moves. So much luck, much success. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Now we have Mr. Subodh Bhargava, Chairman Tata Communications, amongst us as keynote speaker. Before inviting him, I would like to share a brief introduction of Mr. Bhargava. Mr. Subodh Bhargava is a mechanical engineer from IIT Roorkee. He has been the Group Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Isha Group of Companies. He is the former President of the Confederation of Indian Industry, CII, President of the Association of Indian Automobile Manufacturers, and Vice President of the Tractor Manufacturers Association. He is currently the Chairman of Tata Communication Limited, TRF Limited, GlaxoSmithKline Healthcare Limited, and Director on the boards of several companies, including Tata Motors Limited, Tata Steel Limited, L&T Limited, Tata Communication, etc. The Gaurav Shri Award from Agra University in 2011 he has received Best Independent Director 2011 by Asian Center for Corporate Governance and Sustainability and Global Indian Business Leader of the Year 2013 by Horasis. For excellence in entrepreneurship, innovation and leadership. We welcome you, sir.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Singh has already given, I think, articulated very eloquently what the HR function needs to do preparing for tomorrow. I'm not an HR professional, and therefore I'm going to, after the Ramayana is over, go back to page 1 and ask, who was Sita? I'm going to just articulate and try to share with you the challenges and opportunities I see and why. My first challenge was to understand the theme of the conclave. I got confused and had a dilemma whether we are talking about transforming the function HR or transforming the HR. These are two different but integrated tasks. Human beings are same. A very complex bundle of emotions, expectations, aspirations, and many other dimensions of a human being, which hasn't changed, which will not change. It will remain the same. So it's the resource, the HR when we talk about, the shape of the resource will have to change, not the human being. And I think to look at the future, I'm going to dip into the past for a minute only. Even before independence, the employee-employer relationship used to be adversarial. And when the water came up to the neck, the promoters, the owners, the management created what was called a function called industrial relations. Whatever they tried to do, then the water raced further because many organizations faced a sort of agitational or uneasy relationship even with the junior and middle management. There were organizations which had to tackle this. The response was to change IR to HR, human relations. And would you believe me that these functions were manned by lawyers, not social perspective, not business perspective. They were lawyers who managed industrial relations and human relations. Come 91 or just before that, I think we realized that things will not be smooth if we didn't change. And we started referring to people as our most valuable assets. We re-nomenclated the function as human resource. Is human resource any more relevant? Are our people expecting to remain a resource or an asset? I beg to differ. I think time has come to recognize them as strategic people partner to the business. And therefore, my first recommendation to the HR professionals is to look at the nomenclature of your function. Quality control has become quality assurance. Sales has become business development. Service has become customer relations. May I suggest you look at, I don't know, people assurance, people facilitation, people service. I leave it to the professionals to think about it, because I think there is a relationship between the name, the character, the brand, and the attribute. For a minute, I will take the theory mentioned earlier by both our speakers, that change is going to be the constant. And there will be hundreds and hundreds of changes going forward. But some of the thinkers have tried to put them into 5 clean buckets. The first, of course, would be the technology. Very rapid speed of change, whether it's products, processes, digitalization, information technology, and what have you. Second, without any doubt, would be the globalization, which will mean influence of multinational, influence of foreign companies, new paradigms, which is most important, new paradigms in respect of technical know-how, IP, quality focus, scales, and brand. In India, I don't think we had that type of understanding and focus on these attributes which the globalization has brought into our vocabulary already, and is going to get intensified going forward. Third would be the demography. Globally, in India especially, more than 70% is under 35. Longevity has now become much longer, much more. Talent is in a scarcity. Employment means employee-employer relationships would also change because of the demographic scenario which will emerge tomorrow. Fourth will be the social and community choices of lifestyle, which will determine the global scenario tomorrow in the workplace or elsewhere. And finally, of course, would be the energy resources, renewables, with commodities losing their significance. Now, these are global trends which I talked about. It will have impact on Indian enterprises, very clearly. Which are those likely impacts on Indian enterprises? Firstly, we will have more and more powerful networks, which will increase manyfold globally. But then the plus side is that that will provide great connectivity, which will enable continuous communication across the world with our people, wherever they are located. It will enable us to remain in touch. It is already doing so. The second, I think, would be the more complex. The jobs will become more and more complex. There will be either highly skilled jobs or low hands and feet. The middle will go away. And middle is already feeling the pressure. There are hands and feet which will be required always, and there is the brain which is going to take over. Third will be the quality of learning. It was talked about, the skill, training, and I dare say it will perhaps start at the level of world-class education, a movement which has taken off, but the size of the problem is so huge that it might take us many years to come to that. Talent clusters are already in vogue, whether it's Silicon Valley, Bangalore. Going forward, there will be other similar clusters in India. You look at Germany for auto industry, Korea and Japan in their respective sectors. Based on all these changes, the last and most important challenge will be attracting talent, attracting young. And I think there will be a bit of a contradiction or dilemma here. When we will be wanting to attract the young for new thinking, and there is a talent shortage, a scarcity, and large number, I'm not marketing myself, large number of retired people with knowledge, experience, with longevity of 100 plus, with work stress-taking capability 80 plus, are we going to use that resource available, that partnership possible with people? To my mind, Indian industry cannot get away from that. We will have to have a workforce which is across the age spectrum from 20 to 80, and the challenge for the people function would therefore be the integration. How to get the two work together going forward. And this would be one of the most important tasks for tomorrow. Third, and I think most important dimension will be that the organization cultures would not only be determined by the CEO and the owners, the individual would also impact the organization culture to evolve. The first would be the individuals as consumer of products or services, or as prospective employee, have many, many choices. Not only choices of their employer or the segment or the domain in which they will operate or want to work, but also how they want to work. They want to work on an offline mode, online mode, in a virtual environment or a real environment. The young ones and perhaps some old ones who are able to change would take a call on this basis. It's already happening. Many of the female employees who have got other responsibilities are choosing to work from home, and corporates are very willingly accommodating that. And I think more and more of this is going to happen as we go forward, not only with women, but also with men who would find a role at home, but would want to do work also, working out of different proposition. The people tomorrow will also be aspiring for the world class, whether it is the role and responsibility in the corporate or the rewards and compensations in the corporate world. As such, since '91, the trend is very clear in terms of matching the global reward and punishment systems. The customer and therefore the employee all will reject anything which is less than world class, as Mr. Singh had said. It's no good to be best in Haryana or India. I think we have to target in every way to compete for talent as world class. Equally important would be that the young ones who are looking for career to start are much more entrepreneurial in their perspective and their thought. And therefore, if we want them to be convert as entrepreneurial employee of a corporate, I think we got to have new strategies to find them. We'll perhaps find them on social media, maybe at workshops and conclaves like this, where offline dialogues will make the two to understand each other. And lastly, the individual influence or organization culture would be in terms of seeking work-life balance. Family would become important, is becoming important in a work hard, play hard scenario. Quality time with the family will become essential to de-stress the work, and therefore work-life balance would become a very important factor going forward. Let me say the second challenge which we have. India has traditionally been a manufacturing economy, which meant experience was most important, focus was productivity, organization structures were hierarchy. We were very comfortable with the stable structures and the stable processes and systems. We worked in groups and teams, but still in department and functional silos. And I think this all has to be looked at for redefining the direction of change. Change has been resisted in India. Look at the comfort level which many of the corporates are still. They are not willing to adopt to scales. They are not willing to adopt a change quality standards. I think in a way the successful Indian corporates have gone into a mode of arrogance of their culture. They had been successful, they have survived, and therefore why do I need to change? The mindset needs to be tackled. I don't know if HR functionaries will do that or CEOs will do that, but someone will have to tackle that. On the other hand, the economy as today and tomorrow is going to be dominated by service sector. Service sector is non-predictive. It's internet-driven. It needs creativity, flexibility. It needs empowerment down the line, no more hierarchies. And still convert those individual, brilliant individuals into a cooperating individuals. And that cooperation is the word which perhaps will be more important than the silos. There would be decision making which is decentralized. There will be crowd contribution in policy making, in deciding the course, openness, etc. Fourth, as I mentioned, is the question of people mix in the organization, aging population, respective attitudes, in terms of migration across the regions within the country, and quite frankly, internationally. Many, many Indian corporates today do not hesitate in recruiting foreign nationals in the normal course of their cadres. Whether it is not only in IT, I see this in manufacturing, and I see this in finance, I see this in consultancy, I see in every sector of service and manufacturing, openness to recruit international talent. Not only because there's shortage of Indian talent, but also because it brings in a new perspective, an added perspective. This is true with also gender diversification, religious diversification, because corporates are learning that diversified employee force is a value-add proposition. Lastly, I want to talk about just two things more, three things. Enterprises need to be managed in a highly integrated system, not in silos, which I say. And this is where I believe that people's function has got a vantage position. The reason being, you don't have a vested domain knowledge to be arrogant about. You are a mediator, you are an equalizer, you are a counselor, etc., etc. And I think HR professionals, people professionals will have to play a very significant role in enabling organizations to be managed in a holistic, integrated manner and not in a silos, which of course would not give the results. A solution is really, it's not a leader which will lead the organization. We have to inject leadership at all levels. We don't have to inject hierarchy at different levels, but we have to inject leadership at all levels. People, we actually normally forget that people in the junior management have got enough leadership capability to lead their team. Same as middle management, senior management. We are focused only at the top management to try and produce one leader who will lead the organization. I think we have to become multi-leaders. In fact, a leadership is going to be more important than the leader. The danger in all this, what is going to happen, is perhaps absence of relationship amongst people and different levels of decision making. And the solution is provided very definitely by the communication network extending world over, where the mantra will be communicate, communicate, and communicate. Remain in touch across the world. I would just like to share and conclude with my own experience of Tata Communications. We operate in 47 countries. We don't have a headquarter. Our global management team, the network head is sitting in US, New York. Voice business head sits in Montreal. The data business head sits in London. The managing director flies between Singapore and Bombay. The finance and HR heads are in Delhi. Now, in that scenario, nobody looks towards the headquarters for a direction or decision. People are empowered, and what I see in that is that we have very successfully impregnated leadership at levels below the leader. And that's what I believe is going to be the shape of it tomorrow. My HR colleagues, when I was in a 9-to-5 job, told me that there are two types of people. One is they bring happiness wherever they go. The others are they bring happiness whenever they go. It's time for me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now we have our today's chief guest, Dr. Subhash Chandra Kuntia, Secretary, MHRD, Government of India. Dr. Kuntia is presently working as Secretary, Department of School Education, Literacy in Ministry of HRD. He is an MTech in Computer Science and MSc in Physics from IIT Kanpur, MA in Economics, Sociology and Political Science, and PhD in Economics. He belongs to Indian Administrative Service and has handled many important assignments. In Government of India, he has earlier worked as Additional Secretary and Financial Advisor in the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, as Joint Secretary in the Ministry of HRD, and as Director in Department of Economic Affairs in the Ministry of Finance. As Secretary, Department of School Education and Literacy, his responsibilities include administering of some of India's largest flagship programs in elementary education, namely the Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, which covers 1.4 million schools and targets 200 million children, as well as the midday meal program, which feeds 102 million children every day, and which is the largest noon meal program in the world. The Department of School Education and Literacy handle an annual budget of more than rupees 43,000 crore, which also include program for secondary education